Hello and welcome to Texts in English. Welcome back if you're continuing your course this year. We're going to start off by looking at poetry. You can see this wonderful visual poem on your screen in front of you. So let's have a little look at poetry itself. Now, poetry is a format, and within that format there are lots of different genres. But today we're going to look at poetry in general, and we're going to concentrate on conventional characteristics of the format. We're going to start with rhyme, rhythm, imagery, and form. Form is going to be important. We often think about rhyme and rhythm when we think about poetry, obviously images and description. But form, as you can see from this beautiful poem here, you can click the link over there. It's called Untitled for Natalie and Jeremy, and it's by Derek Bewley. And you can see that poetry, rather like picture books, can present us as teachers with both a verbal and a visual text. And that's something we're going to look at in more detail today in this bite-sized bit. But in this bite-sized section, we're going to start off and we're going to look at rhyme, something that we traditionally think of when we think of strict verse or conventional poetry. I'm not going to ignore Like Attracts Like by Emmett Williams up there above me. It too, though it's a free-form visual poem that presents a striking image, an arrow coming down into my head at the moment, it does have features of rhyme through repetition of like, attracts 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 like. So it's rather like a sort of tape delay, a sort of snippet that's repeated. The first and second like almost play into each other and forms a loop. So it has rhyme in that sense, repetition of similar sounds. And we're going to look at rhyme and we're going to look at some examples. We can think about rhyme with some limited vocabulary. I'm not going to get too detailed on you, but we've got a full rhyme like log and dog, bog, mog for cat, moggy. We've got half rhymes like liver and lover, liver lover, liver lover. My name, Charles. There's just about nothing that's a full rhyme with Charles. So you could say Charles and Pearls, for example. It's got a slight vowel change, but it's a half rhyme and it works. And we'll have a look at some half rhymes. And then we've got internal rhyme. An internal rhyme we're also going to see in our examples. Can be very useful and can, in free form verse, play with your rhyme. Rhyme is often in a pattern, and we call them rhyming patterns. We're not going to go into too much detail, but the most common that you'll probably be aware of would be rhyming couplets and alternating rhyming couplets. We're going to look at that in less detail, though it's something you develop moving forward. So, let's have a look at an important poet for me that's going to feature in this series, and we'll come back later as well. John Agard, a Caribbean Windrush poet who is used throughout primary and secondary in the national curriculum in the UK. Here from his wonderful collection, you can see the front cover up there, The Rainmaker Danced by John Agard. This is a poem called More Pointless Questions. Goldfish, goldfish, which glass do you prefer? A bowl of glass or a pond that ripples when the winds pass? Little bird, which do you prefer? A house of wires or a branch that's a stage for feathered choirs? You can see a link down into a similar poem because I couldn't find a reading of this, but if you want to have a look at John Agard. Red rose, which do you prefer? A vase once used to contain dry flowers or a patch of ground blooming with briars? Putting such questions to a goldfish or a bird or a rose? It's pointless, I suppose. Wonderful poem. Now let's have a little look at what's going on in some of that. And I'm just going to back up a little bit. Got this repetition, goldfish, goldfish, little bird, which produces almost sort of an emphatic rhyming pattern. And it feels a bit like a sort of counting, skipping song. Goldfish, goldfish, which do you prefer? You can imagine people skipping rope in a playground and dancing to it. But it creates a very insistent rhyme in the beginning, which isn't then followed after that. Which glass do you prefer? I'm not sure how to read it in terms of its rhythm, also known as sort of meter. Bowl of glass or a pond that ripples when the winds pass. So there we've got glass and pass with a full rhyme. But because I'm not sure whether it's an internal rhyme, a bowl of glass or a pond that ripples when the winds pass, if I read it all completely, or whether I emphasize the rhythm, the meter, and say a bowl of glass or a pond that ripples when the winds pass. And that's got an alternating full rhyme. Wires and choirs. In the next stage, a house of wires or a branch that's a stage for feathered choirs. Almost feels like it's going to be free verse, and then it comes back to wires and choirs as a full rhyme, though again, the spelling was quite different, so quite an interesting play there. Spelling, pronunciation being a strong emphasis and something you can work with in terms of expression and poetry. Here again, here's an interesting rhyme. We've got flowers and briars as a half rhyme, flowers, briars. And it really depends, again, on your pronunciation. I've done this in my sort of RP accent. Flowers. Even my brother-in-law says flowers. Would you like some flowers, darling? Flowers and briars. And I have a non-rhotic R. Briars, flowers. But it could be, if I were, for example, like my mum, who's Irish, it would be flowers and briars. So again, we'd have a very different sound, but again, that link. Putting such questions to a goldfish, bird, or a rose is pointless, I suppose. A lovely little full rhyme on rose and suppose with that different line length, very different rhythm. So we've got some very good examples there of what we can see as full rhyme, half rhyme with flowers and briars, and internal rhyme on nearly all of them, because we've got the form and of how each stanza or verse is set out here. Here we've got putting such questions to a goldfish or a bird or a rose is pointless, I suppose. But the rose and I suppose also functions as a form of internal rhyme. So little look at rhyme there. Moving forward, we're going to look at the actual reading list and the literature we've got, including some of our poetry collections. So I'm going to invite you in our next bite sizes to include rhyme as you read and think about all our poetry and our drama. This was Texts in English Poetry Bite Size.